Karen leaned back in her garden chair, the morning sun warming her face as she sipped her coffee. Her small but well-kept garden was a testament to the quiet suburban life she'd embraced since her kids left for college. She enjoyed the peace, the predictable rhythm of her days filled with little more than book club meetings and her part-time job at the library. Next door, the sound of a car pulling up broke her reverie. She peered over her glasses to see Jamie, the Nelsons' son, stepping out of his old hatchback. His parents, Bill and Marcy, had mentioned that he'd be coming home for a few days. The boy had grown into a young man now, his early 20s sitting well on his broad shoulders. Karen remembered how she used to watch him play in the yard, and it brought a smile to her face. Jamie caught sight of Karen and waved enthusiastically. "Hey, Mrs. Miller, got a minute?" "Of course, Jamie." "Come on over," Karen replied, setting her coffee down. Jamie bounded over the fence with a youthful ease that made Karen chuckle. "I was hoping you could help me with something," Jamie started, scratching the back of his head sheepishly. "It's my folks' anniversary next week, and I want to throw them a surprise party, but I can't really get things done without someone catching on. Could you help me out?" Karen's eyes lit up. "I'd love to, Jamie. What do you need?" "Well, I need to keep them out of the house next Saturday. I was thinking maybe you could invite them over. Say it's a book club thing or whatever you can think of. I'll handle the invitations and food." "That sounds wonderful, Jamie. I think a little book club brunch could be just the thing to keep them busy. We'll need decorations and maybe a theme. What do you think they'd like?" Jamie pondered for a moment. "Mom loves those old Hollywood movies, and Dad's a big fan of jazz. Maybe something classic and elegant?" "Perfect. We could do a Roaring Twenties theme. Jazz in the background, a bit of a dress code. It'll be fun. I'll start planning the deco and you can sneak around getting the guest list and catering sorted." Jamie's relief was palpable. "Thank you so much, Mrs. Miller. I knew I could count on you." As Jamie went back to his car to grab some supplies he'd brought, Karen fetched her planner from the house. She jotted down notes, her mind already racing with ideas for the party. She hadn't taken on a project like this in a while, and the thrill of doing something so significant for her neighbors reignited a spark of excitement in her. Over the next few hours, Jamie and Karen laid out a basic plan. They sketched a layout for the garden setup, decided on a menu that would include some of Bill and Marcy's favorite dishes, and compiled a list of friends and family to invite. Karen offered her garage as a storage space for anything Jamie needed to hide from his parents. As Jamie left, he turned to Karen with a grateful smile. "You're a lifesaver, Mrs. Miller. I can't wait to see the look on their faces." Karen waved him off, her heart full. "It's my pleasure, Jamie. We're going to make it a day to remember." As she walked back into her house, Karen felt more alive than she had in months. This surprise party wasn't just a gift for the Nelsons. It was a delightful break from her routine, a chance to sprinkle a little excitement into her calm, predictable life. Karen tapped her fingers on the kitchen table, glancing at the stack of party supply catalogs and decoration ideas strewn across the surface. "Jamie, I think these gold and black balloons would look stunning, don't you?" They'd really bring that Roaring Twenties vibe to life. Jamie, sprawled on the other side with his laptop open, nodded absent-mindedly. "Yeah, those are great, Mrs. Miller, but we've got a bigger problem. The caterer just emailed me. He's double-booked and can't make it Saturday." Karen's eyes widened. "Oh no, that's terrible. And with just a week left, finding someone else could be tough." "We could maybe handle the food ourselves," Jamie suggested hesitantly. "I mean, it wouldn't be professional catering, but I can cook some basic stuff. Maybe some finger foods, sandwiches." Karen's face brightened. "That's not a bad idea at all, Jamie. I can whip up some quiches and a big batch of my shrimp cocktail. We'll make it a potluck-style feast. Everyone brings a dish, adds to the charm." Jamie's relief was visible as he scribbled down their new plan. "Potluck it is, then. I'll update the invitations to mention it. And for decorations?" Karen flipped through a magazine, pointing at a picture of a jazz band. "Hire a local jazz trio instead of a DJ. It'll add authenticity to our theme and probably cost less, too." "Yeah, and I'll check with the community college. Some students there form a band, and they're always looking for gigs to earn extra bucks," Jamie added, tapping away at his keyboard. As they ironed out these new kinks, The kitchen buzzed with a warm, collaborative energy. Karen felt a maternal fondness for Jamie as he took diligent notes, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Jamie, I must say you're handling this setback quite well. Your parents raised a resourceful man," Karen said, her voice laced with admiration. Jamie looked up, a shy smile spreading across his face. "Thanks, Mrs. Miller. I guess I learned from the best. Dad always says, 'A calm sea never made a skilled sailor.'" Karen laughed, her heart swelling with pride. "Well, he's absolutely right. Now let's finalize our music and entertainment. We want everyone dancing, not just sitting around." "Got it. I'll handle the band booking. And I'll get some props too. Feather bows, fedoras, maybe some fake pearls. Make it fun for folks to dress up and take pictures," Jamie proposed, already browsing for deals on his phone. "That sounds fantastic. And I'll look into some games or activities from the 20s. Maybe a Charleston dance-off or a silent movie corner," Karen chimed in, excited by the prospect of bringing the era to life. The afternoon slipped away as they planned, the setback with the caterer becoming a minor hiccup in their grand scheme. By the time Jamie packed up to leave, both felt not just prepared but genuinely excited about the party. "Look at us, Jamie. Who would have thought a missing caterer would turn us into party-planning pros?" Karen joked as she walked him to the door. Jamie grinned, stepping out into the cool evening. "It's all thanks to my fantastic co-conspirator. See you tomorrow, Mrs. Miller. We've got a big day ahead." With a wave, he was gone, leaving Karen in the doorway, her mind buzzing with anticipation and a heart full of newfound camaraderie. Karen beamed as she adjusted the last of the streamers. "Jamie, these feather boas are a hit. Look at Bill. He looks like a genuine gangster from the 20s. Jamie, securing a banner across the porch, chuckled. "He's totally into it. Did you see Marcy with the flapper headband? She's loving this." "Just wait until they see the cake. It's as authentic as it gets, straight out of a Gatsby party," Karen exclaimed, a glint of pride in her eyes. As guests filtered into the garden, laughter and jazz music filled the air. Everyone complimented the decorations and the unique theme. Karen and Jamie exchanged satisfied glances, their earlier worries washed away by the joyous scene. "Mrs. Miller, this is incredible. How did you pull this together?" a neighbor asked, her hands skimming over a pearl necklace provided at the door. Karen smiled, handing her a glass of champagne. "Oh, it was all Jamie's idea. I just helped execute it." The party buzzed with energy, people mingling, dancing, and trying out 20s slang they'd looked up just for the occasion. The jazz trio, a group of students from the local college, played lively tunes, and the makeshift dance floor was never empty. Suddenly, the music dipped into a sultry pause as a late arrival caught everyone's attention. A figure at the gate, unexpected and not quite fitting the joyful scene, stood hesitating. It was Greg, Marcy's brother, who hadn't been seen at family gatherings for years after a mysterious fallout. Karen's heart skipped, her cheerful facade momentarily faltering. "Jamie, did you invite Greg?" she whispered, keeping her voice low. "No, I thought he was out of state. This could get awkward," Jamie muttered back, his brow furrowed as he watched his uncle make his way through the crowd. Greg's presence shifted the atmosphere subtly. Guests whispered, glancing his way, curiosity mingling with concern. Karen approached Greg, her expression composed. "Greg, it's good to see you." "What brings you here?" she asked, her tone warm yet cautious. "I heard about the party. Thought it might be time to mend some fences," Greg replied, his voice rough, eyes scanning for his sister. Karen nodded, understanding the delicate balance of family dynamics. "Well, you're welcome here. Let me get you a drink, and maybe you can catch up with Marcy slowly." As she led Greg to the bar set up on the patio, Jamie approached Marcy, giving her a subtle heads up. Marcy's reaction was a complex mix of surprise and unresolved pain, her smile faltering just for a moment before she regained her composure. "Let's just enjoy the party, Greg." "We can talk later," Marcy suggested, her voice stronger than she felt. Greg nodded, and with a deep breath, he raised his glass to the lively crowd. The tension lingered, but the night's festive spirit slowly resumed its pace, guests returning to their celebrations, the jazz band kicking off a particularly spirited number. Karen watched from a distance, ready to intervene if needed, but hopeful that tonight might just bring some healing after all. Karen straightened her apron, looking around at the scattered decorations and half-eaten plates of food. "Jamie, can you believe this mess? It started out so well." Jamie, surveying the chaos, nodded slowly. "I know, Mrs. Miller. Who would have thought a simple anniversary party could turn out like this?" Karen picked up a fallen chair, setting it right. "It's that unexpected twist with Greg showing up. I thought for sure we were heading for disaster." "Yeah, and then the power going out just as he walked in? It was like something out of a movie," Jamie added, chuckling despite the situation. Karen laughed, joining in his amusement. "Exactly." And then the ice sculpture melting into a puddle in the middle of the dance floor. It was surreal. Jamie began gathering up the soggy streamers. Not to mention the confusion it caused. Everyone scrambling around in the dark, bumping into each other, trying to figure out what was going on. And there I was, trying to keep everyone calm, holding up my phone for light. Karen recounted, her voice lively with the retelling. Telling everyone it was just a little glitch and we'd be back to partying in no time. "You handled it like a champ, Mrs. Miller. You always do," Jamie said, his admiration evident. "When the lights came back on and we saw Greg and Marcy talking quietly in the corner, I couldn't believe it. It seemed like they might actually sort things out." Karen nodded, wiping down a tabletop. "Sometimes it takes a little chaos to bring people together, to make them see what's important." Jamie paused, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "You think they'll reconcile?" Karen placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "It's hard to say, but at least they're talking. That's the first step towards healing. And tonight showed that anything's possible." They continued cleaning, the task giving them time to process the night's events. "And how about when Mrs. Henderson's dog got loose and chased the jazz band right off their stage?" Karen laughed, recalling the scene. Jamie laughed too, his mood lifting. "I never saw anyone jump so high, and then running around trying to catch that dog, it added a whole new level of excitement to the evening." "It did, didn't it?" Karen agreed, tossing a bag of trash into the bin. "But we got through it. The party went on and people had a good time, even with the surprises." "That's true," Jamie said, his smile returning. "Thanks to you, Mrs. Miller. You kept your cool and kept the party going. You really are amazing at this." Karen gave him a playful nudge. "We did it together, Jamie. It was your party, remember? You did all the heavy lifting." As they put the last of the party debris away, Karen felt a sense of accomplishment. "You know, Jamie, despite everything, I think we threw a pretty memorable party." Jamie agreed, looking around at the now tidy space. "We sure did, Mrs. Miller, and I think everyone will be talking about it for a long time." With a final glance at the clean and orderly garden, Karen and Jamie headed inside, ready to put their feet up after a night that none of them would soon forget. Jamie sat on the porch step, a leftover streamer fluttering nearby, looking worn from the night's events. Karen joined him, handing him a cup of coffee. "You did a great job, despite everything," she said, her tone comforting. "Thanks, Mrs. Miller. But I'm not sure everyone enjoyed themselves with Greg showing up like that," Jamie replied, ruffling his hair with a hint of frustration. Karen sipped her coffee, considering his words. Maybe not everyone, but most did. And those who didn't, it's a part of life. Parties like this, they stir things up, sometimes in ways we don't expect. Jamie nodded, his eyes tracking a bird hopping across the lawn. "I guess you're right. It was kind of a wake-up call, wasn't it? Shows you can plan all you want, but you can't plan for everything." "Exactly," Karen agreed. "It's like baking. You can follow the recipe to the letter, but sometimes the oven's quirks or the humidity can throw you a curveball. What matters is how you adapt, how you handle the heat, and how you help others handle it too," Jamie added, glancing at Karen with newfound respect. "You were amazing with Greg. You didn't even blink. You just took care of it." Karen chuckled lightly. Well, I've had my share of unexpected guests over the years. You learn to be gracious even when you'd rather not be. They both laughed, the tension easing as the sun began to rise, casting a soft light over the remnants of the party. So, what's the biggest lesson you're taking from all this? Karen asked, a playful note in her voice. To keep my guest list tight and maybe hire a professional caterer next time, Jamie quipped, then grew serious. But really, I learned a lot about my family tonight and about myself. I'm stronger than I thought, and I can handle more than I give myself credit for. That's a valuable lesson, Karen said, her eyes warm. And don't forget, you've got people who will back you up, come what may. Jamie smiled, the morning light reflecting in his eyes. I won't forget. Thanks, Mrs. Miller, for everything. They sat in companionable silence, finishing their coffee as the neighborhood woke around them. Birds chirped, and a car door slammed in the distance. A normal morning following an extraordinary night. Karen finally stood, stretching. Well, I should get this place cleaned up. But let's plan to catch up later this week, okay? I want to hear more about your plans now that you've got this big party under your belt. Definitely, Jamie agreed, standing up to help her gather the empty cups. And maybe you can teach me a few of those baking tricks, especially how to handle the heat, Karen laughed, handing him a trash bag. Anytime, Jamie. Baking, party planning, you name it, we'll tackle it together. Karen poured herself a cup of tea, the steam curling up into the air as she considered the whirlwind of the last few days. Jamie, do you see how everyone's been a bit more connected since the party? It's like we all shared a secret adventure together. Jamie, sipping his own tea, nodded. It's true. Even my parents, they've softened. Seeing everyone rally during the blackout, and even Greg stepping in to help, maybe it reminded them of what community really means. It's more than that, Jamie. It's about resilience, isn't it? Karen mused, her voice reflective. I mean, look at us, tackling everything from escaped dogs to power failures. I used to think these events were just markers of another year gone by. Now I see them as chances to prove we can handle more than we think. Jamie leaned back, considering her words. You know, Mrs. Miller, you're right. I always thought you were just the nice lady next door who knew how to throw a good party. But you really are something else. You're like this. This pillar that holds everyone up when things get shaky. Karen chuckled, a blush creeping up her cheeks. Oh, stop it. But speaking of handling things, I've been thinking about taking on more than just neighborhood parties. Maybe it's time I put this knack for crisis management to professional use. Like what? Planning more events? Jamie asked, intrigued. Not just parties. Maybe community events, fundraisers, things that need a steady hand, Karen explained, her eyes lighting up with the budding ideas. And why stop there? Maybe I could even start a little blog or a newsletter, share what I've learned about bringing people together, about turning chaos into something beautiful. That sounds amazing, Mrs. Miller. You'd be perfect for that. And I bet people would love to hear your stories, learn from your experiences, Jamie encouraged, his enthusiasm genuine. And maybe I could teach a class or two, share some of this old lady wisdom with the younger generation, Karen added, warming to the idea. Jamie smiled, his admiration growing. You know, my mom always says, when you're good at something, don't do it for free. You've got a real talent, Mrs. Miller. It's about time you show it off to more than just our little neighborhood. Karen nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. You're absolutely right, Jamie. It's time I took on a new challenge. And who knows? Maybe I'll help inspire others to see that it's never too late to change, to take on new adventures. Exactly. And I'll be here to help you every step of the way, Jamie promised, raising his cup in a toast. To new beginnings, then, Karen said, clinking her cup against his, and to realizing that sometimes it takes a little unexpected chaos to discover what we're really capable of. With plans forming and a new sense of purpose, Karen felt rejuvenated, ready to embrace whatever came next with open arms and a heart full of ambition. Karen set down her notebook, filled with plans and ideas, looking across the table at Jamie. You know, starting this new chapter, helping organize community events, maybe even a small business out of it. I'm really excited. It feels like there's so much more ahead, not just for me, but for our community. Jamie nodded, his eyes reflecting genuine pride. I always knew you had it in you, Mrs. Miller. And think about all the good you can do, bringing people together, creating something positive. It's about making the most of the time we have, isn't it? Showing that any one of us can kickstart a change, no matter our age, Karen continued, her voice firm with conviction. And you, Jamie, you've been such a big part of this realization for me. I couldn't have come this far without your push. I'm just glad I could be part of your journey, Jamie said, his tone softening. You've taught me a lot too, Mrs. Miller, about community, resilience, and even about family. Watching you plan that party, handle the chaos with Greg, it gave me a new perspective on things. Karen smiled, appreciating his words. And how are things with Greg now? I noticed you two speaking more at the community center. They're better. Not perfect, but we're getting there. It's a slow process, rebuilding trust, but it's happening. And I think it's thanks to you, showing us how to step up. Face things head on. That's all any of us can do, face things head on, learn, and keep moving, Karen remarked, feeling a surge of hope for the future. As for us, I hope you know I'm here to help with your events, your classes, whatever you need, Jamie offered earnestly. I count on it, Karen replied, her eyes twinkling. And don't think you're getting out of helping me test recipes for the community bake sale. I need an honest critic. Jamie laughed, the sound bright in the quiet room. Deal. But be warned, I'm pretty tough on cookie quality. Karen leaned back, her thoughts drifting to the neighborhood, now stirring with more than just daily routines, but with a sense of shared purpose. This place, our little corner of the world, it's become so vibrant lately. I think we're on the brink of something wonderful. I think so too, Jamie agreed, his voice hopeful. It's like we're all waking up, realizing we can make things better right here with what we have. Karen nodded, her heart full. So, here's to new beginnings, to the challenges and triumphs ahead, and to a community that feels more like a family every day. To new beginnings, Jamie echoed, his smile wide. As they stood to clear the table, the air between them was light, charged with the promise of tomorrow, a testament to the power of community and the unexpected paths that lead to fulfilling one's dreams.